A plan for paid sick leave put forward by the Ford government, but critics already asking if this is the best Ontario can do for workers. A local band writes a song to honor those working on the front lines of the COVID-19 pandemic. A live look outside right now. What a day it's been. We're dancing around 25 degrees in Windsor right now. Got to enjoy it though. There could be rain on the way. Colette Kennedy with the details tonight. I'm Chris Ensing. Thanks for joining us. Hundreds of international students trying to study in Windsor now stuck in limbo. Many in India and Pakistan after Canada imposed a travel ban. Now students are trying to figure out if and when they might be able to travel and prepare for the school year. Renelli Unshin has more.
In an already chaotic world, it was a huge disruption for me.
Arpit Singh Gupta will start his Human Resource Management program at St. Clair College, but it won't be in Canada because of a flight ban that has halted passenger travel from India and Pakistan for 30 days. For Singh Gupta, the news has left him uncertain and worried.
The only option we see is traveling from India to another country, quarantining ourselves there for 14 days, and then traveling to Canada, which is again something that as a student I don't think I can afford, and it's not right on my part to do that. To be honest, I'll be traveling from India, and it's not safe.
India is experiencing one of its worst weeks with over 300,000 COVID-19 cases being reported daily. Singh Gupta was supposed to land here in mid-May, but he spent more than $30,000 to get to Canada. But now he is scrambling to figure out how to reschedule a flight for a ban that may be extended. For him and other students stuck, the college and university is trying to help.
Everybody knows this is beyond the control of St. Clair College or the students. Again, we're preaching patience, we're answering inquiries. Students have to, talk to landlords. We're talking to landlords on their behalf. It's an organized mess.
We're here to support them remotely, including here to provide counseling services and support. The COVID pandemic has really put a lot of pressure on international students, both financially and on a mental health basis.
I left my job to fly to Canada, and I'm unemployed right now. And plus I'm studying and my loan has already started. The main reason to go to Canada was to understand the culture, to experience it physically. Since I cannot do that, this is already difficult to study online.
St. Clair College and the University of Windsor will offer classes and some services remotely. Renelli Unshin, CBC News.
The Windsor Essex Health Unit is warning people about a potential exposure to COVID-19. Anyone who took a ride with a vet's cab over a recent 5-day window is being asked to monitor for symptoms. That's between April 16th to 20th. Those are the dates that the health unit has provided. Now, they're telling people not to get tested, just to monitor themselves for COVID-19 symptoms for that 14-day period from the start of that exposure. Now, this morning, 47 new cases of COVID-19 announced. Another person has died, a man who was in his 50s. There's updates on the vaccines as well. You can now book a spot at a mass clinic if you're 40 or over and live in one of the hotspot postal codes. Anyone in Windsor, Essex who's over 40 with at-risk health conditions can also book a spot through the WeVax sites, and that includes autoimmune disorders, diabetes, and mental health disorders.
We have our local vaccination coverage rate, and dropping it down to 45 is helpful, but not enough to get the numbers that we are hoping for. And with the additional doses, we do have additional vaccines that we can open it up. We know that these hotspots are hotspots for a reason, and a lot of these cases of COVID are coming from that region. So we wanted to make sure that we provide the level of protection that we can for individuals living in these hotspot areas.
We got details today on the paid sick leave plan that Premier Doug Ford first hinted at last week. Ontario is planning to double the federal benefit currently available to opposition members, and some doctors, they're already panning that plan. Lorenda Redikoff now with the details.
Today, the province announced its paid sick day plan is to double the current federal one.
Let's be clear, the federal government, with the flip of a switch, can ensure that workers in Ontario are paid $1,000 per week, and our government will pay 100% of the doubling.
Like with the federal program, the pay would be available for up to 4 weeks, retroactive for 2 months.
Why would this government throw money at a failed federal program instead of stepping up and providing paid sick days to workers in this province and saving their lives.
Criticisms of the federal program include that people have to wait to get their money, and workers must be off sick for at least 50% of their normal work week to qualify. It doesn't appear the federal government is willing to allow Ontario to connect to its program.
One of the most efficient ways of doing that is obviously to work through employers, as we have through federally regulated workplaces. And I know the Deputy Prime Minister is working directly with the province of Ontario to ensure that the right supports get there for people as quickly as possible.
When governments agree on the objective,
One economics professor feels the federal government should improve its program.
labor law falls under the jurisdiction of provinces. Absolutely true. We're not in normal times. This is an emergency with a very clear objective. The provinces are not moving on this. And I think by making that first move, the federal government stepped into the ring.
But many have been waiting on the province, especially after this.
And we will have the best program anywhere in North America, bar none.
Frankly, am very upset about this.
This doctor is among those who's been advocating for more.
And a lot of people that are going to die unless we act immediately. This is my biggest fear, is that we are sacrificing the lives of hardworking Ontarians, workers in Ontario, for the sake of some sort of political ideology, or we're playing politics.
He says it needs to be available for all workers, and the easiest way to avoid a stoppage of pay is through employers. Despite the criticisms, the Premier's office says with pay of $1,000 a week, this would be the best sick pay program in North America. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Ontario's Deputy Chief Coroners made 35 recommendations to keep temporary foreign agricultural workers safe. 3 men from Mexico died after contracting COVID-19 last season, all 3 working on farms in southern Ontario, 2 in Windsor, Essex. The coroner says better communication is needed between governments and agencies bringing migrant workers to Canada. He also recommended a tip hotline, allowing workers to talk to someone in a language other than English or French. The coroner says foreign farm workers should be a high priority group when it comes to COVID-19 vaccines. So far this season, some 2,000 migrant farm workers in Essex County have had their first shot. For more details on the other recommendations from the coroner, you can go to cbc.ca/Windsor. Father Maurice Restivo is heading home to Texas to continue his COVID-19 recovery. Now, he's the pastor at Our Lady of the Assumption Roman Catholic Parish and diagnosed in January, but continues to deal with long-term side effects, joining a group many now know as long haulers. I caught up with him as he was making his way through Ohio.
What has this been like for you emotionally, mentally, to know that this is part of your life now and it could last?
Yeah, it's certainly humbling. This is the first time in my life I've ever experienced anything that I didn't kind of see an end to. Even like when I was in a car accident, I broke my leg. I know that, after X amount of months with this therapy or whatever, everything's going to be fine again. This is totally unknown. Some days I feel almost normal, and other days I feel like I can do very, very little. And so one thing is that I recognize that, I have it, but it's not that serious. At the same time, my job not like a desk job. It requires a lot of physical and emotional stuff, in terms of working with people, funerals, masses. And I found I couldn't do mass without being totally out of breath by the end of mass and kind of holding on to the altar. So I recognize the privilege. A lot of people could never do this, but my doctor, I told my doctor that I should probably, I was on a short-term medical leave, or officially I guess am, I don't know, from the diocese, and we were thinking 3-4 weeks, and I was in the 4th week and no change really. So I told my doctor I thought I either had to go back on a very limited, clearly defined roles with other people having other responsibilities, or I needed to take a sabbatical. And we talked for a little while, and he said, what you need to do? He said, you should go back to Texas, where you've got family support, you've got community support. He said, you go there, you're far enough away from the parish, you're not going to get sucked into anything. You get well, and then you come back.
you having gone through this, what would you say to those who maybe aren't as cautious about what it is, or your advice having gone through what you've gone through, what you would pass along?
Well, my only thing is if you've had anything more than a very mild case, you know that you don't want anybody else to have it. And so take care and be careful and do whatever you can to take precautions. I wouldn't wish this on anyone. And I'm lucky because I did go to emergency in an ambulance my first time at my doctor's recommendation, but that was when they diagnosed the viral pneumonia that often accompanies COVID. But they sent me home with antibiotics. So I was very lucky I didn't have to be hospitalized. But there are people who are way worse off than me. People, of course, now that we know that are in ICUs, that are overflowing, that are dying. But even if you have, like what I had, it's not fun. And if you can avoid it, avoid it.
A Windsor band has written a song paying homage to essential workers.
So sad, about a year ago, more and more, so sick.
This is an early version of the music video. The band received hundreds of photos of frontline workers to be part of the montage. Cheryl Fraser, the lead singer and lyricist, says it took just 20 minutes to write. Being surrounded by healthcare workers, listening to so many of their stories, the words just flowed, she says. The response caught her by surprise.
I'm overwhelmed. I've cried. I've shook my head in disbelief. I am grateful and humbled and flummoxed. I'm so appreciative of all the support that they are giving us as a group and allowing us to pay tribute to them because they deserve it.
Family Services Windsor Essex is getting $200,000 from the federal government. The money will help fund their idea to increase housing supply nationally. That idea, take a closer look at how additional dwelling units, also known as ADUs, affect the areas that they're built in. An ADU is when a property owner builds a second dwelling on a property where one already exists. We spoke with the lead researcher on the project, who also has built an ADU in her own backyard.
So we actually don't know if these units are better in terms of affordable housing or not. There's kind of both sides of the coin. One perspective says that, well, you can offer these because they're cheaper to build, you can offer these at lower market rents, which is true. But the other side of it is in some bigger cities, these units are costing, $350,000, $500,000, which is much more than mine cost to build just because of costs in a bigger city. And also then the property value going up so much that the market rent is so much higher. And so there's kind of this ambiguous territory where we don't really know. And so this tool will hopefully help answer that question. I think they could be really powerful in terms of creating more affordable housing, knowing what the market conditions are. It's just, can we get homeowners to be able to subsidize rent and be able to actually, rent them out at those affordable rates? And that's where better policy will come into play that we can use through this tool.
Do you know that anybody has built another one since you built yours?
Oh yeah. I've seen a few others being built now. I'm actually helping on a few to get them developed, so I'm excited about that. I'm hoping to be breaking ground on one soon. And a lot of them are happening in the core of Windsor. So they're predominantly in neighborhoods that have alleys off the back, have longer lots that they can, have a unit off the back. Somebody has, two different living spaces, and so we're seeing a lot of those kind of take shape.
The final location of the refurbished streetcar in Windsor continues to be challenged. The city wants to put it in the Celestial Beacon project at Assumption Park. It's proceeding with a zoning bylaw amendment that would allow for the building height. This after bailing out from defending an exemption at a local planning appeal tribunal hearing. The people taking the city to the hearing, they still have to go through that process. Win or lose, they still plan to fight.
The next big thing, honestly, is to lobby city councilors to stop this foolishness that's going to allow the city to do whatever it wants to all the way along Riverside Drive.
Huron First Nations people provided the land to Assumption Parish originally, so people at Assumption Parish say the city still has to consult with local Indigenous leaders before going ahead with building the Celestial Beacon.
Because the Indigenous really provided this land to the parish and to the church in the first instance, and they have an ongoing interest in these lands. They have an outstanding land claim which has not yet been resolved. They certainly have an interest in the Huron Mission lands because they're undeveloped and they are at the core of the land that was provided for the early settlement in this area. And so they have an entitlement to be consulted.
It's not clear how much authority local Indigenous leaders would have to prevent the beacon from going ahead. The city's CAO says the zoning amendment process allows for public consultation, and the CAO expects the city would prevail at any LPAT hearing on that zoning amendment. He expects the report will go to council soon, and construction on the Celestial Beacon project will start next year. What started out as an average school day for teacher Cheryl Truman soon turned into a rescue mission. She got to school early, only to find the school's custodians asking for help.
Next thing I know, they were knocking on my window saying, "Mrs. Truman, can you please come help us? You have nice long arms. Our arms won't fit down the drain pipe." And so at that, I said, "I'll be right there," and walked outside, and then the adventure began. So the drain pipe was, I don't know, about 2 feet down, the length of my arm, and just a little less than the length of my arm, because I was able to get right to the bottom. When we first started, we thought there were only 4, and that was the amazing part, because after we got the first 4 out, there was like, oh, and there's another one, and here comes another one. And in the end, we pulled out 11 of the ducklings, and we thought we had them all, which was really exciting. And with each precious little one that came out, it was like, oh, we got another one. And then it's like, we'd listen, are there any more? There was a 12th duckling that was just, I guess, a little scared, and they heard the other one that was down there, and they dug that one out. They actually broke the pipe and got down and got it. They were so precious and so cute, and it was absolutely an emotional experience knowing that these poor little ducklings were in peril, and we were able to save them.
Now, 11 ducklings were able to go with their mom. That last little one is with Wings Wildlife. We'll stay until it's old enough to care for itself. A live look outside here as we enjoy the sun shining down on Windsor, Essex. How long does it stick around? Colette Kennedy knows. She's up next. Beautiful day out there today. Those warm temperatures have people in Windsor looking for ways to keep active but stay COVID safe.
Walking every day. We walk every day, and we wear our mask all the time when we have to. But if we're out walking, we don't, because we like to get the fresh air.
Yeah, no, you've got to be sensible, protect yourself, protect others, and go about your business.
You got to be really cautious when you're out there, because you still got to stay social distancing and keep your mask on. And I'm waiting for my turn to get vaccinated with the Pfizer, which is going to help. Like, if the doctor told me to do it, do it. So I'm going to do it. And other than that, I stay 6 feet away from people. And I'm always on my bike exercising, because I need the exercise still, right? Because once you get up there in age, it doesn't get easier, it gets harder. So you got to keep motivating, right?
It's hard not to be motivated when you got a riverfront like that. The flowers out there, probably be a nice sunset tonight. Colette, this is a good day.
It is a good day, and I love whoever decides, what the titles are going to be on these folks we talked to today. That the one gentleman was a warm temperature enthusiast. I am also a warm temperature enthusiast.
Exclusive club.
Yes, it isn't for everybody. It's true, but this is what we have. I hope you are an enthusiast, because you're getting your due here. 27 degrees in Windsor today, Sarnia at 25, London at 22, and then you just track a little further east and hey, it's not happening over there, kind of the other side of the warm front. 30 degrees in Chicago, daytime high. By the way, our record at this time of year for this date is just over 29 degrees, so not a record, but still pretty mild there in terms of our daytime high, when our average high at this time of year is about 10 degrees cooler. Current temperatures still holding on. Leamington, Harrow, 25 degrees now. Chatham, Kent, 19, but it was 23 earlier. Just those winds off the lake kind of bringing that temperature down. The rain, thunderstorms to the north of us, but we're seeing a changing pattern. So by tomorrow morning, look for some rain and some embedded thunderstorms. So locally, some heavier downpours. Slight chance late in the day, especially with some sunshine and some breaks, adding to the energy and the volatility. And then late in the day, we could get into some more thunderstorms coming back in tomorrow, and a slim chance some of those could be severe. So that'll be something we're watching. Now, the system that comes in Thursday, this is a little bit interesting with the tracking, because a lot of the cloud cover into southwestern Ontario, but the main rainfall is just skimming by. So if that shifts a little further north, we're talking about a steady rain. If it stays where it's tracking now, then it's some scattered showers and a damp day, but not a rain out. Overnight, your temperatures, can you believe this? Your overnight low is the same as what a seasonal daytime high would be, and it's not till tomorrow morning. Expect some wet weather. Don't be lulled by the dryness during the day, because we will see a repeat likely into the evening. And a humidex to talk about. Not extreme, but nearly 30 degrees. Thursday, big change in that temperature. 14, those showers again, mostly south, just a few, and then breaking out of this pattern, Chris, at the end of the week, and there's something on the weekend for the warm weather enthusiasts.
The warm weather
Warm
enthusiasts.
temperature, sorry.
Warm temperatures. We're close, we're close. We like this. A week ago, snowflakes falling, I think.
Yes, and there are enthusiasts for that too.
Stripes of all kinds. Thanks for this, Colette.
You're welcome.
An IKEA out east has worked with the Mi'kmaq community to showcase some of their culture, hoping that it educates others. That's next. There are IKEA stores all over the world, and they often have displays to help people visualize what their products would look like inside of a home. Now there's an IKEA in Nova Scotia showing people what its offerings would look like in a modern Mi'kmaq home. Nick Maloney has more on how that came about and what it represents.
When a staff member from IKEA approached John R. Syllaboy about placing some of his nation's cultural symbols and artifacts among their trendy assemble-at-home furniture, he said he saw the potential for cultural appropriation, but also cultural education.
Right away, my thought was towards knowledge sharing, cultural sharing, how to open up people's mindsets to understand who we are as Mi'kmaq.
This version of a modern Mi'kmaq home, unveiled last week at the IKEA in Dartmouth, is the result of a 6-month collaboration to better represent the store's place in Mi'kmaq territory.
What we tried to do with the showroom was capture a moment of time in a family. We have art on the wall, we have baskets and moccasins, and we have real bread on the table, Luskinnigan, with my mother's recipe.
IKEA's David Duplessis contacted Syllaboy after seeing colleagues in Alberta working with a First Nation artist. He said respecting the Mi'kmaq community was a top priority.
It could be very easily misconstrued, I think. If we had done this without the input of our contributors, I don't think it would be successful. It wouldn't be, the intent would be wrong, right?
Working with the store's designers, Syllaboy sourced most of the items directly from Mi'kmaq artists and his own family members, like his niece's traditional regalia.
It makes me really happy to see like people looking at my regalia and complimenting it, you know. I feel like when anyone thinks about Native people as a whole, they're like, oh, those ones that used to live in teepees. We don't still live in teepees.
Syllaboy said it isn't just the objects, the items in the room that are of cultural significance. The concept of a home, a multi-generational home where families gather, that is also central to the Mi'kmaq way of life.
It's IKEA integrating into a space of Mi'kmaqi.
IKEA expects the Mi'kmaq display to be in store for 6 to 9 months. Nick Maloney, CBC News, Jabuktuk, Halifax.
And that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. We're on social media too. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And if you're looking for more information on those vaccination sites, you're going to want to go to the website as well. Those have changed slightly from this morning. The Rick Mercer Report is up next. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.